What's happening? Happy draft night to everybody. Hopefully you are feeling good tonight about this pick, the fourth pick in the NFL draft by the New England Patriots. We've been talking about this guy for the last couple of months. I saw somebody comment, my guy Greg Fields, say it seemed inevitable that this pick was going to happen tonight. And here we are. No trade. And first and foremost, I would wonder, did the Jacksonville-Cleveland trade, did that impact the Patriots' plans in any way? I wouldn't imagine so, because when you look at the draft order and how this all kind of unfolded, the Browns drafted Mason Graham. So Armand Membu was the second tackle off the board at 7. Kelvin Banks just went to the Saints a few moments ago. So I don't think that impacted much of anything. I don't think that trade made a lick of difference. I think this is all about the Patriots identifying their guy and deciding that Will Campbell was the pick. He was their guy, and he's been their guy for the past couple of months, and it seems like they have not wavered from that whatsoever. Mike Vrabel spoke with the media just a few minutes ago, and he was asked about Campbell, and Vrabel said that he went and worked out Campbell last week, and that goes to the Jeremy Fowler tweet from earlier today saying that the Patriots had gone to Louisiana last week and worked with Campbell very late in the process. So Vrabel confirmed that tonight, that they did go to Louisiana last week to work out Will Campbell. And, Vrabel said he's a left tackle. That's what he's played. That's what he's done. He'll come in and compete to be the left tackle. Everybody will compete for their spots. So he's obviously not going to sit there and say, oh, yeah, he's definitely going to start left tackle for us. No doubt about it. Vrabel said that Campbell is a young player who cares deeply about the team, is a leader in that room, and that the Patriots love his football character. Vrabel went as far tonight to say that this was, quote, a very, very easy pick for us. So it doesn't seem like the Patriots were stressing out whatsoever about who to pick and why to pick him. Vrabel said this was a very, very easy pick for us, Will Campbell. And he mentioned Campbell being a foundational piece, called him mature beyond his years. And Vrabel said when they went down there to Louisiana to work out Will Campbell, Campbell had one objective: to prove he was the right player for us. So Will Campbell is the pick at number 4. Let me know how you feel about it. Throw your comments in. I'm having a drink. Hopefully you are having the drink of your choice as well. I figured, why not? It's the NFL draft. Celebrate life. Celebrate the fact that the pick just happened and that Will Campbell's a Patriot. If you want to celebrate that, maybe you're upset that Will Campbell is a Patriot. But I'm going to get to my thoughts here. Sometimes you just have to take your medicine. Sometimes you don't want to take the medicine, but you just have to take the medicine to improve yourself. And I feel like that's what the Patriots did tonight. The Patriots took their medicine. Some people will say the Patriots had to eat their vegetables. I've seen that thrown around as well. This is all due to the long-term mismanagement of this offensive line, specifically the left tackle spot. That's what this all has to do with. You pick Will Campbell tonight at number 4 because you failed time and time again to address a premium position, blind side to your right-handed throwing quarterback. How many times have we seen the Patriots swing and miss? How many times have we seen them ignore the tackle position? Too many times. Countless times. I said earlier today on the radio, I don't necessarily love Will Campbell at 4, but I'm okay with it. I'm fine with it. I'm good with it. Because even though I don't absolutely love this pick, I loved the Drake May pick last year. Even though I don't absolutely love this pick, I'm not head over heels picking Will Campbell at 4. I'm happy. I'm happy because they went after a premium position. They identified this guy months ago. Elliott Wolf apparently had talked to Will Campbell months ago during the SEC season, and they said, we're not messing around anymore. We're not messing around. It's not a guarantee that we can trade back in for a left tackle. It's not a guarantee that left tackle will be there. It's not a guarantee that somebody's going to fall to 38. We got to stop screwing around. We've been messing around with the offensive line for way too long. We've been messing around with the left tackle spot for way too long. And we can no longer take it for granted. And we think that this guy is going to be a left tackle for a long time. So why mess around? Why overthink it? Draft the guy that you love, that you believe can play the position that you've been trying to address for seemingly ever. So I might not love the pick at 4, but I'm perfectly fine with Will Campbell being the pick because I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. I'm sick and tired of watching bad left tackle play. I'm sick and tired of watching the quarterback run for his life because the left tackle whiffed yet again. And I know many of you are tired watching that as well. And I've said this before, I'll say it again. Every single left tackle prospect in this draft had questions. Every single one. Kelvin Banks has been labeled a guard by many. Armand Membu plays on the right side exclusively. We can go down the list. You know the list. Every single left tackle has a question mark sitting right next to their name in this draft. And that is the hard, cold reality, the truth of this draft. There was no Joe Alt. If you wanted to address the left tackle position, you were going to have to take some kind of a risk, whether it was risk with arm length, risk with injury, risk with transitioning somebody from the right to the left. You were going to have to take a risk. The Patriots drafting Will Campbell and being committed to him being a left tackle as of right now, yes, that's a risk. But it's not much more of a risk than any other player brought to the table. You could have easily drafted Kelvin Banks and had to move him to the right side or to move him to guard. You have to trust the evaluation. You have to trust the evaluation, trust the offensive line experience. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I know more about offensive line play than Doug Marrone. I'm not going to tell you that I know more about offensive line play than Jason Hotailing. I don't know more about offensive line play than Robert Kugler. You have not one, not two, but 3 offensive line coaches. I would imagine all of them said, yeah, we like Will Campbell. We believe that Will Campbell can be a left tackle. So trust the offensive line coaching staff. Trust the evaluation. If they got Dante Scarnecchia on the phone, trust Dante Scarnecchia. Doesn't mean it's a guarantee that they're going to be right, but it didn't mean that they were going to be guaranteed right if it was somebody else they drafted at 4. The draft is an unknown. So yes, there are questions, and we'll talk about it. We'll break it down. I've got comments from a bunch of analysts and pundits, people that are pro Campbell at left tackle, people that are anti Campbell at left tackle. But before I get to that, because a lot of people have been having this back and forth, and while this conversation has been happening about Campbell, is he a left tackle or is he a guard? I've been keeping track. I've been keeping a roll call of analysts and pundits, and I've been keeping track of who believes Campbell's a left tackle and who believes Campbell's a guard, and we're going to go through it tonight. We're going to go through that list. I'm going to give you the quotes from these people, and then you can take it for what it's worth. I'm going to go to the people that break offensive lineman film down, break the draft stuff down, and we're going to go right to those sources, and I'm going to give you the final tally of who thinks he's a tackle, who thinks he's a guard. We'll do that in a minute. But before I get to that, help us out. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up. Help us with the algorithm. We're about 40 subscribers short of our goal of 6,600. I'll be a little bit upset if we don't get to 6,600 by the end of this live stream tonight. So don't forget to hit that like button. Help a brother out. Don't forget to throw your comments in. I see a bunch of comments. If you want to get to me, the easiest way is a super chat because there's so many comments that come flying in. I don't have a producer, so the easiest way is to send a super chat. Those super chats get starred. So if you want your reactions to be read, that's the best way to do it. But throw a comment in either way. Have the chat with everybody else. And, of course, when you chat and throw that comment in, that helps us with the algorithm. So don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. All right, so let's get to Will Campbell, and let's get to what experts, analysts, and pundits had to say about Campbell. I want to start with the people who believe that Will Campbell is a tackle. So this is team offensive tackle. Let's start with team offensive tackle. Louis Riddick tonight, right after the pick was made, he said this on ESPN about Campbell going to the Patriots. Quote, he'll be a decade-long left tackle bookend for them. This was a no-brainer pick for them in my estimation. So Louis Riddick, hands down, believes Will Campbell is a left tackle. So we've got Riddick. Mel Kiper believes that Will Campbell is a left tackle. Here's what Mel Kiper wrote at ESPN.com. I know a lot has been made of Campbell's sub 33-inch arm length, but he has the footwork and pop to stick at left tackle. Dane Brugler from The Athletic had Will Campbell ranked as his number one offensive tackle, and he had Will Campbell as his sixth best overall prospect. So Campbell gets drafted fourth. Dane Brugler had him as the sixth best prospect in this draft. Here's what Brugler wrote. Again, he believes Campbell's a left tackle. Campbell's mediocre arm length lessens his margin for error, but his athletic movements, core strength, and competitive finish help him stay connected through the whistle, regardless of the block required. His skill set is reminiscent of a more powerful version of Colts left tackle Bernard Raymond. So Dane Brugler says that Will Campbell is a more powerful version of Colts left tackle Bernard Raymond. Daniel Jeremiah of the NFL Network, he, just like Dane Brugler, had Will Campbell as his number one offensive tackle on the board, and Jeremiah had Campbell as his 10th overall player in this draft. Here's what Jeremiah wrote. There's been a lot of talk about Campbell's arm length, but he had to be pleased they measured 33 inches at LSU's Pro Day. He is just scratching the surface of his potential and should start at tackle for a decade. So Jeremiah says, Will Campbell is a tackle for the next decade. Louis Riddick says he's a tackle for the next decade. Dane Brugler says he's the best tackle in the draft. Field Yates also had Will Campbell. He also had Will Campbell. Tyler Booker just went to the Cowboys at number 12. That's pretty high compared to what people thought. Field Yates had Will Campbell as the number one offensive tackle in this class. He had him as the fifth best prospect overall. Yates wrote, I'm still bullish on Campbell as a tackle. His ability to match and mirror opposing edge rushers gives him serious upside despite length concerns. Field Yates then wrote what he was hearing about Will Campbell from people around the league. And here's what he wrote. The number of evaluators who are unbothered by Campbell's arm length really stands out. I was hard pressed to find an executive or coach who does not view LSU's Campbell as the best tackle of the class. I'll say that again. Field Yates wrote that he was hard pressed to find an executive or coach who doesn't view Campbell as the best tackle of this class. And those same people told me his length was not a concern on tape. This isn't me. This isn't Tommy on Twitter. These are NFL executives, NFL coaches who universally told Field Yates that Will Campbell's a tackle and that they were not bothered by his length. Bucky Brooks of the NFL Network had Will Campbell as his number one offensive tackle. Bucky Brooks called Will Campbell the crown jewel of the class. Dan Feldman's mock with all sorts of intel from around the league had Campbell going 9 to New Orleans. An SEC defensive line coach said this about Will Campbell. I could see him starting for the NFL at tackle for a decade and making a team very happy. An SEC defensive coordinator told Dan Feldman of The Athletic, Campbell's a special talent. I wouldn't worry that his arms might be a half inch or inch shorter than some people would like. He's athletic enough, quick enough, and nasty enough to control the pass rush. I think he's a complete player. Jeremy Fowler of ESPN wrote a column about polarizing prospects. Here's what he wrote about Will Campbell. He's going to be awesome. This was a high-ranking personnel evaluator. He's going to be awesome. all-pro caliber guard, and if he's a tackle, he will be better than at least half the tackles in the NFL right off the bat. These are people that work in the league. These are people that coached in the SEC against Will Campbell. These are people who know the game of football. They know a lot more about football than I do. And they're all saying that Will Campbell is not only a tackle, he's a left tackle, and he's going to be a good left tackle at the NFL level. Even more people, Evan Lazar says that Campbell's a tackle. Phil Perry, Todd McShay, Steve Mensch, Nate Tice, Taylor Kiles, all of them. All of those people that I just named believe that Will Campbell is a left tackle. And the biggest question is whether or not he proves them right. Is he going to end up being the outlier? Is he going to be able to prove people right? Is he going to prove people wrong? There was inherent risk with this pick, no matter who it was going to be. And I've said for weeks now that this was not going to be the, home run, no-brainer, can't believe it, he's going to start for the next 15 years at left tackle. It's not going to be universally framed in that way. But they got themselves a left tackle. They believe he's a left tackle, and I just rattled off, I don't know how many experts, analysts, and pundits, 10 to 15 of them, who also believe he's a left tackle and could be a very good left tackle. Now, not everyone agrees, and I'm going to share the other side because not every person agrees that Will Campbell is a left tackle. There are analysts that say he's not going to be a tackle in the NFL. I will get to those analysts and those thoughts in just a minute, but I want to run through some super chats. Thanks for joining me. As always, I appreciate you. Chris Chapman jumps in with a $10 super chat. Thanks, Nick. I love the pick. So Chris loves the pick. I'd say I really like the pick. I wouldn't go to the love stage. I got to date Will Campbell for a little bit. I got to date Will Campbell for a little while before I love the pick. But I have no problem with the pick. I'm not bashing the pick. I have no problem with the pick. I think the pick is going to be just fine. I think it makes sense, and we'll go through many reasons why. Pat's Pro jumps in. Love that Campbell is a Patriot. Called it weeks ago and could not be happier. Yep. You were all over it, Pat's Pro. There was so much smoke, I started to feel like there was something weird going on. But no. The smoke was the smoke. And Will Campbell is a Patriot. Ken Weber, $20 super chat. Thank you, Ken. Really pleased with the pick. As I've said elsewhere, the only person I would have picked over Campbell is Travis Hunter. The team just got a little bit better overall because Drake will have more time to throw or run. Yes. And I want to talk about the offensive line overall because if you were frustrated, I was frustrated. I think most of us were frustrated. If you were frustrated by the lack of focus on the offensive line last year, the lack of commitment to the offensive line this offseason, I don't think you could be mad about it. You might not agree with everybody they brought in via free agency or drafting Campbell, but the one thing you can't say is that they're not trying to get better up front. They've put every foot forward trying to get better in front of Drake May. And I think, tell me if I'm wrong, I want to hear from all of you. Don't forget to throw those comments in and click that thumbs up. I would love to know, do you feel better about this pick since Hunter and Carter were both off the board? Because the board fell the way we all thought the board was going to fall. The fact that Hunter went 2 and Carter went 3, did that make you feel better about picking Campbell at 4? It did me, because I would have picked Hunter. I would have picked Carter over Will Campbell. It would have been a tougher call with Carter, but I would have went with Carter. Tobias jumps in, having a draft party here in Germany. I love it. Slancha Tobias. Slancha's Irish, I know. What's German? Prost? Isn't it Prost? Prost. I probably said it wrong. But I'm having a beer with you, my man. Having a draft party here in Germany. We all agree this pick is good and was necessary. We all enjoy your content, Nick. Keep it up. I want to go to Germany, man. It was in the plans, Tobias. It was in the plans to go to Germany last summer, but we never got there. I want to go to Germany before I'm done with this world. So thank you for the super chat, Tobias. All right. So I gave you all the good. I gave you all the positive analysis. Kenneth Grant going to the Miami Dolphins at number 13. This draft is very interesting. Tet McMillan went 8. That was all over the place. Grant went 13th. Booker went 12th. So there have been some surprises tonight. There really have been. One of them was certainly not what the Patriots did. All right, so I gave you the analysis. I gave you all the analysts and experts who said that Campbell is a tackle. I want to give you the other side because I want to be fair. So let's be fair. By the way, Bob McGinn, one more last one on the good. Bob McGinn had this write up about Will Campbell. By the way, Bob McGinn also had Will Campbell as the number 1 tackle in the class. One scout said he's super talented. He can do it all. He's quick, has feet, he's athletic. His technique's really good. In the run game, he can position or jolt people. In pass pro, he can mirror. He'll give up some pressure every so often on an inside move mostly. He's got Pro Bowl talent. His arms are a little short. That'd be the only concern. There's always exceptions. There's always outliers. Again, that was a scout to Bob McGinn. A second scout said this about Will Campbell. He's good. If you want to nitpick, his arms aren't that long. Great kid. His interview, he sounded like a head coach at a P4 school. It was incredible. One of the best interviews I've heard in my life. Another scout said that Will Campbell, maybe he's a guard, but I still see him as a tackle. He's got the feet and balance. He's got the ability to play tackle. Let's go to the other side. Brandon Thorne, who is one of the best when it comes to breaking down offensive linemen. Thorne wrote that overall Campbell is a prime candidate to move inside as a pro. Said he could make a smooth transition to guard or center, be an impact starter with Pro Bowl potential during his rookie contract. Brandon Thorne had Will Campbell ranked as the number 1 interior offensive lineman. Lance Zerline from NFL Network. He wrote, Campbell has short arms, and when he's beaten to first action, the footwork and technique go out the window. Campbell must learn to vary his pass set technique. He said he would thrive at guard. Thor Nystrom from Fantasy Life. He actually had Campbell as the 3rd offensive tackle in the class. He comped him to Jonah Williams. He had him behind Membu and Banks. He wrote the past 2 seasons, Campbell was 56th percentile in Pro Football Focus's pass block grade. Not good, folks. He wants to play tackle at the next level. I'd prefer him at guard. Here was Bob McGinn with the not so good. He's less than a Jonah Williams as a left tackle, but as a right tackle, he would be a good player. He's built like a guard. If you want to knock holes in him and not take him, you can find whiffs and misses and getting pushed back. If you take him as a left tackle, you're going to be disappointed. You've got to have alternative plans. If you take him as a right tackle or guard, then he'll prove to be a good pick. And then Mike Giardi also is not a believer. Giardi, not a believer in Will Campbell. By the way, the Colts just picked Tyler Warren. So Tyler Warren off the board. I think that proves that my point of not taking Warren at 4 was probably a good idea. Don't take him at 4. So he goes after Loveland and he falls all the way to what, 13? So that's where Tyler Warren ends up. So let's give you the final tally here. And I've got a lot more thoughts, but I want to give you the tally of experts and people, and I'm not counting scouts that had these quotes. So Kuiper, Brugler, Jeremiah, Yates, Brooks, Lazar, Perry, McShay, Mensch, Tice, Kyles. Also, I could include Louis Riddick. I could include Brian Baldinger. So those are 13 analysts, experts believe they're in the camp that Will Campbell can play tackle. 13. Team guard, Thorne, Zerline, Nystrom, Giardi. That's 4. So the final tally, 13-4. 13 say that Campbell's a tackle. 4 say he is a guard. And then you have 3 people who I found that are, I call them, team on the fence. Matt Miller of ESPN, he grades Campbell as a first grade. He's the number 1 interior offensive lineman, first round grade interior offensive lineman, but also said that, Campbell could play tackle. Jordan Reed said that, some scouts project him as a guard, but he'd be a fine professional tackle. And Mike Tice said that he could play tackle, maybe right tackle, but you also could move him to guard. So overall, the majority of experts and analysts and pundits, I know we all pay attention to the few that talk about Will Campbell being a guard and he has 2 short arms and all that stuff. The majority of the experts are saying that they believe Will Campbell is going to be an NFL left tackle. And there's plenty of other things, right? I mean, Booger McFarland called him an alpha tonight during the draft. Love the pick. Think he's going to be a left tackle for 10 years, if not more. So that's another guy. Your number 1 priority was to help Drake May. That was the number 1 priority of this offseason. I've said it from the very beginning. When you walk into this offseason, what you need to do is help Drake May. They didn't do it last year. They didn't do nearly enough. So this year, what have they done? They go out and they sign Morgan Moses. They go out and they sign Garrett Bradbury. They go out and they draft Will Campbell 4th overall. And now you start to see the pieces being put together. Maybe they draft a guard later tonight. Maybe they draft a guard tomorrow. Maybe they draft a guard later on. Who knows? But right now, let's say Will Campbell is your left tackle. You got Campbell at left tackle. You've got the competition between Sidney So and Layden Robinson and Cole Strange at left guard. I wouldn't be surprised if they draft a guard. You've got Bradbury, who is an upgrade at center. You've got Owenu in his rightful position at right guard. And you've got Morgan Moses, a legitimate bona fide right tackle. This offensive line on paper is so much better than it was last year. And Mike Vrabel made a promise. Vrabel, when he was introduced, talked about building from the inside out. He talked about the trenches. And think about what they have done this offseason. I just went through the offensive line stuff. They spent their best pick on Will Campbell. They spent money on Morgan Moses. They let David Andrews go, a very popular guy in the locker room, a team captain, let him go for the upgrade of Garrett Bradbury. They also, on the defensive side, gave a ton of money to Milton Williams. So Mike Vrabel, he underlined trenches. I want to build through the trenches. I want to be strong at the line of scrimmage. Harold Landry, Milton Williams on the defensive side. Their most money spent on a single player was Milton Williams. Their biggest financial investment was on the defensive line. The most draft capital was the number 4 pick in this year's draft, and they selected a left tackle with that 4th pick. So they spent the most money on the line of scrimmage, and they spent their top pick in this draft on the line of scrimmage. And that is what Mike Vrabel told us he was going to do. That's what he told us. He told us we're going to build this thing from the inside out. And that's precisely what they are doing. Let's go over some other stuff that was said during these press conferences. Will Campbell spoke to the media, said that he told Elliott Wolf he wanted to join the Patriots when Wolf visited an LSU practice in October. Back in October, Will Campbell was telling Elliott Wolf that he wanted to be a New England Patriot. By the way, help us out. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Trying to hit 6,600 subscribers tonight. Help us out. I love this. How would you describe your game? One word, Campbell said, nasty. Let's go back to Mike Vrabel's introductory press conference. Vrabel talked about effort and finish. That's what Will Campbell does. Will Campbell gives you effort. Will Campbell gives you that nastiness. Will Campbell plays with finish. That's what he does. So all the signs have been there. All the signs have been there for this to be the pick. Campbell said that Mike Vrabel is the type of coach he wants to play for because he is, quote, all ball, no BS, unquote. So I know there are questions, and I'm not going to tell you that you are not right. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that you're wrong for questioning the arm length and wondering if he's going to end up being a guard in this league. You are well within your bounds to question that, and I think it's a fair question to have. However, there are lots of people who know more about football than I do who believe he's a tackle and believe he will be a tackle in the NFL and believe that he will be an above-average tackle in the NFL. I am not going to sit here and argue with people who know more about football than I do, especially former offensive linemen that have played in the league, offensive line coaches. Who am I to sit there and say, I don't know everything about, left tackle play. So I'm going to lean towards what the experts are saying. And again, we went through there's the reason why I started. I went early to those comments and those quotes because I wanted to give a fair depiction of what the reality is as far as evaluating this player. Because it seems to me that a lot of people paid attention to the naysayers when there was actually a lot more people who were saying Campbell could play left tackle than were saying he can't play left tackle. And that's interesting. You were getting the message from the few. The majority say he can play tackle. So if the majority say he can play tackle and the Patriots believe he can play tackle, and by the way, Jalen Walker just got drafted by the Falcons at 15. So Jalen Walker is off the board. Took him a while. So Jalen Walker to Atlanta. No trades yet, which I think is good news for the Patriots if they want to trade back in. The less trades that we have, the more opportunity. Shedeur Sanders, Jackson Dart still sitting around waiting. So I understand the pushback. And again, I'm not going to battle the people who are going to push back. Your opinion, we'll see if he ends up being a guard. But every left tackle prospect in this draft had questions, and I think Josh Simmons has more significant questions than Campbell does with the knee issue and the character questions. There are a lot of people who do not believe Membu can move to the left side. So I would not want to draft somebody who has never played on the left side. So, I think you were going to draft somebody that had a question mark. It's as simple as that. And worst case scenario, you move Will Campbell into the guard position. You get through 2025, he plays tackle, you see how he does. If he's average, above average, you can keep him there. If he doesn't fit the bill, then you slide him inside the guard and you take another swing at tackle next year. Maybe the tackle class is much better next year. Maybe you're willing to be more aggressive next year because you fill more holes. And you have more holes filled through this draft. And let's not forget, they still have a lot more picks here. They've got 3 more picks over the next, they have 3 picks tomorrow. Maybe they trade back into the first round tonight. Maybe they draft somebody like Donovan Jackson who has, some of that versatility and can play tackle and guard. So we'll see how it goes. But I've got to tell you, I think, I think this is a good pick, and I'm fine with the pick. I don't love it, but I understand it. They addressed what they wanted to address. And in a draft full of tackle prospects that have questions, they drafted a guy that has a question. Anonymous jumps in with a $20 super chat. Thank you, Anonymous. Happy with the pick, but want to see more out of this draft. Yeah, I mean, I think we all do. you don't pick first. You don't spend that first round pick and then say, all right, dealer clap, I'm done, and walk out. We all want to see. We all want to see more from this draft. So we'll see. We'll see if there's another move that's set up tonight. I did think it was interesting. Vrabel was asked by the media if they could move up, if they could move back into the first round. And Vrabel said if the right players are there. So he's certainly not shooting that down. And as we discussed earlier, there's a lot of teams in this draft that want to move out of the 20s. They want to get out of the 20s. They want to go into the second round. So if there's a receiver, I mentioned Emeka Egbuka. You could talk about Egbuka. You could talk about Matthew Golden. You could certainly talk about some of the guards. Maybe they love themselves some Gray Zabel. You can talk about Donovan Jackson, the guy who I had going at 38. So if there's a player there that they love at wide receiver or left guard, I think they're going to have an opportunity to move back in. But they obviously felt they wanted to take care of the left tackle spot. They felt like Campbell was the best tackle on the board. Many people agree with that. So they took Campbell at 4 and they said, hey, we've got that solidified. And now we get to see how the rest of this round falls. And if somebody at wide receiver or guard starts to fall down the board that we like, then we can jump right back in. So we'll see if they do that. Don't forget to like. Don't forget to comment. Don't forget to subscribe. I have my doubts that we're going to get to 6,600 subscribers, but hopefully we can do that. All right. I appreciate every single one of you. That'll do it for this post-draft live stream. Tomorrow, no podcast, no live stream. I'm going to do another pre-draft live show tomorrow night right here on this channel, and we'll see who was picked. We'll see if, what players are left in the second round, who they might target. I'm sure we'll have stories overnight about what happened, what didn't happen. But until then, everybody have a great rest of your Thursday night. Enjoy the rest of the draft. See ya.